Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. This is a special night for us. We really appreciate all the young people participating in our essay contest. And this year, we had the biggest number of entries that we've ever had before. So that was really encouraging. We appreciate that. And as we always do, we thank the City of Wilder for allowing us to use this facility tonight. The process is that we're going to run through a short little business meeting. It takes 15 minutes or so. We have to do that kind of stuff, you know, the treasurer's report and the minutes and all that. And then we'll turn it over to the stars for tonight, okay? So, Richard, you want to read the minutes from last meeting?
I wasn't able to make it last month, so thank you to Jane Lester for taking notes for me. Meeting began with Steve thanking the City of Rattle for the use of the facility and welcoming visitors. Treasurer report, Glenn reported an income of $72, expenses of $1,959, and a beginning balance of $10,228. Jan reported 289 members in good standing, plus 6 new ones that had just been came in and not counted yet. The September issue of the newsletter was going to be mailed out at the end of August from Captain. And she announced that essay contest winners would be invited to speak at our meeting tonight in September. 8 new veteran files have been recently added. It brought up the total to 14,836 names in our files. In news, senior citizen picnic will be held on September 27th at Henry Park, 11 to 3. The society will have a table, so come on out and visit us there. Volunteers are needed to assist us with the business and fundraising components of our organization, so if anybody wants to help, there's some opportunities in those areas. Steve then introduced presenter Dennis Steely to discuss current trends in the funeral home and mortuary business, and he announced our meeting in September would be the essay contest winners, October, a presentation on the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame, and in December we'll have our holiday social. Last month in November was still to be determined. That's our...
We opened this month with $8,330.95. Had 10 renewals, 2 new members. Had 4 new lifetime members. Received $400 in donations, 350 of which were for the essay contest. $100 in publications, Kroger $116, and a corporate sponsor for $100, so our income was $1,438.84. And we bought supplies for the office and supplies for the newsletter, paid the copier lease, and paid for the copies for cemetery records. So our expenses were $527.13. We closed with $9,242.66.
Very good. Thanks, Glenn. Richard, you want to pop up one more time and do donations?
Last 2 months, Sandra Wetzel donated us a framed picture of the 1906 Bellevue High School graduating class. Carolyn Marsh, 2 bound volumes of Campbell County School Board minutes from the 1930s and 40s. Terry Lightfoot gave us a collection of newsletters of the Campbell County Retired Teachers Association. We received some Bellevue High School yearbooks from the late 70s and early 80s that were new to our collection, so we have a lot of yearbooks and just increased that. Joanna Bradbury donated us a book Down the Street and Across Town by Stanley Bradbury. Rolla Bedford donated us photos inherited from Elizabeth Clem, one of our former members, so we got some of her photos back. And Dorothy Gottlieb donated us pictures of the Schweitzer families, including a large album of a lot of old pictures in it. Some items from the Daughters of America group that belonged to Elsa Schweitzer, and a large framed baptism certificate. Since we have not heard any updates, as far as I know, next March or April, but any updates are certainly let everybody know as soon as I hear them.
Thank you. And Jan is not here tonight. She is on a golf outing with some other couples, and so they're gone all week. But membership surpassed 300 once again this year. So we were at 302, and I know when I was at the office earlier today, there's a couple more up there. So we just keep growing every year. I think that's wonderful. Newsletter went out. Everybody, all members should have the current newsletter. Shirley, do you have anything on veterans files or, okay?
I wear a lot of hats, not just my 4th of July summer hat. We added 7 veterans to our collection last month, bringing the total to 14,844. If you haven't been up there to see this collection, you should come up and see.
Very good. Thanks, Shirley. Mark, oh, there you go. You want to come up and talk about the There's a flyer on everybody's table about the Christmas tree. That's another thing that's growing. This is our third year of doing that, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. If you go past the courthouse in December in Main Street in Alexandria, the front yard is lit up with Christmas trees. How many did we have last year? 24 last year. The county gives us the electric and this, that, and the other. But the deal is you pay 85 bucks, we provide the tree, we provide the lights, we provide a sign for it, everything that you need except your own decorations. So if you do a tree in memory of somebody, or just as a thank you, or you have a business.
One of my daughters has purchased a tree this year to say, "Dear Santa, my sister did it." So,
Okay, any reason you want.
whatever you want.
As long as it's clean, right? We'll take it, and we'll make a sign for it. That's just a topper from one of the trees. They're usually, what, 6-foot trees?
6 to 10 foot.
Yes, okay. But I mean, even if you don't buy one, go past the courthouse, it is really, really cool to see it all lit up. Buck just told me today, he's had some inquiries about Pieces of the Past. Pieces of the Past 1 is at the printer, okay? So they are coming. Glenn has done an incredible job of recreating these things, and you're getting close to ready to send pieces 2, aren't you?
Right.
Okay, to the printer. So we're getting close on it, and we will have both of those available. We're probably going to sell them individually and sell a box set of 1, 2, 3, and 4. A lot of Jim's work is in there. We did the Alexandria Fair this year. It was the first time we'd ever done it. They've been there since 1852. We thought they were going to stick around. So we talked with them and agreed to have a table there. And I think we made some contacts. I think we touched with some people. And so we'll talk about it, whether we're going to do it again next year or not. But 4 days is grueling down at the fair. But we did it, and I appreciate everybody that participated and gave their time and their energy and their effort to make that one happen. Richard talked about the senior citizen picnic. We will be there next Wednesday, or a week from Wednesday. No, next Wednesday, the 28th, 27th, whatever it is, at Vendry Park. If you've never been there, it's tons of fun. Okay, for all us old folks, you get lunch, and it's a good fun time. Miss Campbell,
Sorry, just trying to get on smile.
Carol has a couple of things to say, and then we're going to turn this over to Miss Lawrence.
I'm Carol Kirkwood, and I am the designated cheerleader for all of the local history in Northern Kentucky. I work with all of the historical societies and museums and everything, trying to network and increase interest in local history. Campbell County is to be commended for this Pieces of the Past. I was at another historical society today, and they happened to be talking about their Pieces of the Past collection, which was minus the first one. So I think there will be a clamoring for that. It's going to be a great fundraiser, and I think you are to be commended for doing that. That is a huge, huge task, I know. It took a long time, so you guys are really lucky to have dedication like this here. Okay, when you all are doing projects, and if you have projects, if you're not a member of the society, I know we have a lot of guests here, you have things of interest that you think, might be a focus for the Historical Society, talk to somebody about it. There are a lot of other places that want to network, increase awareness of the history of the county. That's always good. And Barringer Crawford Museum in Kenton County is one of them. They would like to do some more integrating of history with the Campbell County. So think about that when you all have history that you want to share. Let's see. Then we have these T-shirts. So these were donated. So each of our winners tonight get one. But the ones that are left over from that are for sale, $20 total money in the bank for Campbell County. Okay? $20 for Campbell County. Yeah, Bear wine. Merrill, that's Merrill. Okay, I also work with the Kenton County Historical Society. They have published the Northern Kentucky Heritage Magazine for 30 years. If you are not familiar with it, you should be. They have decided to increase their audience and interest in local history to take their back issues that they have extra. And like there was a double printing or something, and disperse those out to the community. And that is one of my tasks. So I have brought some tonight to share with you all. And
Freebies.
all three. And there's 5 or 6 different kinds of different ones up here. They all have or most of them, they're really only don't. But an index in the back. So if you can look through there and see if there's any articles about something you particularly want to read about, and contact the Kenton County Historical Society. But if you have another organization you belong to, you would like more copies, my contact information is in there, and sharing history is what it's all about, okay? That's all I've got to say. Oh, these here, these gray T-shirts here, these are freebies, and they're all kind of small. So if you have any kids or anything at home, it says Northern Kentucky Restoration, promoting preservation architecturally, okay? So those are all freebies with you. That's my shtick.
Thanks, Carol. With that, Martha, would you like to come up and get us started?
Good evening, everyone. This is always a great time. And I always say, are we doing this again? It's like we just did it. But this is a good evening, and it's great for history and the history of our county. We have 4 winners. One little gal is at school, and her father will be reading her paper, which is nice of him. You're going to owe her for that one. And then a senior with an honorable mention was Emma Steely, an essay about the development of Fort Thomas, but she can't be here tonight. This is the 16th year we have done this, the Frank Steely Historical Essay Contest. He would be proud of this because he loved encouraging young people. Of course, he loved history. So this is a great thing we do every year. And I understand we had a large number of essays this year. One of the things students encourage other people to do that. If you enjoyed it and learned from it, see if you can get some of your friends to do it. It would be fun. Several of you get together and go to the libraries, and each one working on their own project, but it could be a lot of fun. Let's see. I get anything out of order or forget to say anything, remind me, because that happens. I call those Mitch McConnell moments. Anyway, I guess we're ready to do this. We'll start with our first place senior essay, Southgate House. We'll start with him.
My name is Steve Birch. I'm representing my daughter, Cora Birch. She graduated from Vista Foster in the spring. She's currently at Center College in Danville, Kentucky, so she hoped to make it, but it just wasn't possible. I think she has orchestra class right now, and so she asked if I could help out. So, the title of her essay is The Southgate Thompson House and the Southgate House Revival, Music Venue Masterpieces of Campbell County. On East 3rd Street in Newport, Kentucky, just across from Newport on the Levee, towers a vast 3-story red brick mansion. Passing by this house, one might hear the faint sound of a kick drum or a bass guitar reverberating from within. The Thompson House, formerly known as the Southgate House, was first built in the early 1800s and is currently a live music venue which hosts the likes of the Black Keys, Modest Mouse, and the Killers. It's a good band. On East 6th Street, a few minutes walk down Nama Street, is another building, gracefully resembling a church with its tower, arched windows, and stained glass interior. This structure, previously the Grace Methodist Episcopal Church, is now home to the Southgate House Revival, another, more recently founded music venue. Upon visiting the Southgate House Revival last year to see my music teacher's band, Orchid in the Ivy, perform, I was immediately intrigued by the venue. As a lifelong musician and music lover, I wanted to learn more about this local establishment, as well as its predecessor, the original Southgate House, now Thompson House. In researching these two buildings, I was truly amazed by the rich history both have to offer. I interviewed the Thompson House's general manager, Cameron Kidwell, about the history of the venue. Mr. Kidwell told me that what is now the Thompson House was built by Richard Southgate and was initially a log cabin. I was surprised to hear that the Thompson House is one of the oldest buildings in the Northern Kentucky area. According to the family files of the Campbell County Historical and Genealogical Society, the 1,000-acre plot of land surrounding the Thompson House was originally purchased from William Kennedy by Squire Grant in 1796. In 1808, Grant assigned the land to William Mosby Grant, who in turn assigned it to Southgate. Richard Southgate, the namesake of Southgate, Kentucky, was born in New York City on January 23, 1774. He studied law in Albany, New York, and observed people such as Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr in court. Southgate arrived in Newport in 1795, where he practiced law and stood deservedly at the head of his profession. Southgate married Anne Winston Hine, the daughter of Kentucky's pioneer doctor Thomas Hine, in 1799. The two had 8 children together. Their son, William Wright Southgate, became a U.S. congressman. Richard Southgate gained significant property and at one point owned all of the current city of Southgate. In 1814, he had a brick mansion constructed by British prisoners from the War of 1812 to replace his family's log cabin. Richard Southgate eventually served as the Commonwealth Attorney for Campbell County, a state representative, and a state senator. During this period of time, Southgate hosted many prominent political figures at his home, including Abraham Lincoln. Southgate also became involved in the silk production industry and even received the Silver Medal for perfection and general excellence of silk at the New York Crystal Palace exhibition of the industry of all nations, the so-called World's Fair. Southgate died at his home in 1857 with a net worth of over $1.5 million. The mansion was willed to Southgate's oldest daughter, Frances Mary Talifero Parker. Parker altered the house by adding the entrance tower, the widow's walk, and mansard roof. In 1869, Parker handed down the house to her daughter, Julia, who resided in it for the rest of her life. Notably, Julia was the mother of John Thompson, the inventor of the infamous Thompson submachine gun, or Tommy gun. There's a lot there. At the turn of the 20th century, Richard Southgate's house was sold out of the Southgate lineage to Fanny and Louis Maddox. According to Mr. Kidwell, the mansion was at one point an orphanage. In 1914, Southgate's house was purchased by the Knights of Columbus. The Knights added the brick front porch, and after a fire in 1948, which destroyed part of the structure, a balcony and back room. Some claim that the modern-day mansion is a paranormal site or even haunted. It is a stop on the Newport is Haunted ghost tour. Paranormal enthusiasts, as well as various concert-goers and workers, claim to see 3 different ghosts within the house. The first is said to be the ghost of Frances Mary Talaferro Parker, who supposedly opens and closes doors in the evening. The second is the ghost of a young boy who died on the property. People claim to hear him knocking on walls. The third ghost is said to be a Confederate soldier who also died near the property during the Civil War. Some allege they had a conversation with this man in the first floor men's restroom or on the second floor landing. I'm speculating alcohol might be involved. Or not have that in here, I haven't. So. Southgate's mansion was purchased by the Raleigh family in 1976. Owner Ross Riley founded the original Southgate House. This marked the beginning of the building's history as a live music venue. According to Madeline Mitchell of the Cincinnati Enquirer, Raleigh, a well-known supporter of local bands and musicians of all genres, forever changed Northern Kentucky's music scene when he opened the Southgate House in Newport in 1976. The Southgate House initially hosted country and bluegrass shows. The venue eventually diversified and began booking shows of a wide variety of musical genres, including metal, indie rock, Americana, and punk. In the 1990s, the Southgate House gained significant popularity throughout the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, and even became a landmark on the national music scene, playing host to rock and roll Hall of Famers and rising stars alike. According to Rowley's daughter, Morella Rowley, who currently owns the Southgate House Revival, in the 2000s, we really hit our stride. There were shows happening 6 to 7 nights a week, and there were everything from country to punk. The venue's 3 performance spaces, the parlor, lounge, and ballroom, allowed for the booking of a variety of acts. Bands such as the White Stripes and Arcade Fire performed in the 600-person ballroom, while smaller local bands played in the parlor and lounge. According to Nat Tracy Miller of Cincy Music, perhaps most importantly, Southgate House provided an enthusiastic, welcoming incubator for the local music scene, and young area acts were often tacked onto national bills. As Mr. Kedwell stated in 2010, there was a legal dispute between Walsh Riley and his sister, Armina Lee, over ownership of the Southgate House. Lee won the battle, gaining ownership of the venue. Consequently, the Southgate House was scheduled to close in December of 2011. During this final month, local folk band The Tillers recorded a live album there. The Dopamines played a final show on New Year's Eve, and the Southgate House shut down after 35 years as a live music venue. Lee would go on to reopen the Southgate House as the Thompson House in June of 2012. Bands continued to perform in the basement and on the first 2 floors of the mansion, while the 3rd floor is currently an art gallery. The transfer of ownership left Ross Rowley in search of a new location. As Morella Rowley stated, there were definitely discussions about how it would be easier not to reopen somewhere else, but after doing something for that long, it becomes part of you. Ross and Morella toured the former and at that point abandoned Grace Methodist Episcopal Church in January of 2012. Morella Rowley noted, "The minute we saw the church, we knew we were going to reopen there. The structure was built in 1866 and served as a church for 120 years. It was hit by a tornado in 1915 and a severe windstorm in 1986, which toppled the steeple and closed the church. The building stood vacant for almost 25 years until the Rowley family bought it in 2012. After redoing the HVAC, electrical work, and plumbing, building stages, and installing sound equipment, the Southgate House Revival opened in October of 2012 at the Cincy Punk Fest. When Ross Riley passed away in 2018, Morella gained ownership of the venue. The new venue offers 3 separate performance spaces, like the original Southgate House. The main stage is known as a sanctuary, similar in capacity to the Thompson House's ballroom. This elegant room boasts a towering pipe organ, 11 stained glass windows, and arches above the stage. As Nat Tracy Miller noted, it is a striking, dramatic space for music, commented upon and loved by artists and audiences alike. Next is the lounge with a bar and pool tables. The lounge typically hosts free shows and the monthly artist-in-residence performance once a week. The final room is the upstairs revival room, which is where I saw Orchid and the Ivy perform. The revival room is intimate and inviting. It is only about 30 feet deep with a small stage. Both the Southgate Thompson House and the Southgate House Revival are of great historical significance to Campbell County and its people. The buildings possess intricate, centuries-long histories. As Mr. Kedwell of the Thompson House noted, both of the venues have also attracted a lot of attention to the Northern Kentucky area over the past 4 decades. Likewise, in the words of Madeline Mitchell, the Enquirer, the concerts held at both venues fostered creativity and community for musicians and fans alike for over 40 years. Referencing the Southgate Thompson House, Jacob Cook of the Northern Kentucky Tribune explained that while the house has changed between many owners and even its name over the years, the legacy of this home continues to have an impact on Newport and the surrounding area's culture and history. From politicians and military men to a noted firearms inventor to ethereal residents to its present-day entertainers, the Southgate Thompson House haunts our historic imagination. Of the Southgate House Revival, Tracy Miller noted, "It is a revival not only in name. Both the institution and the building have come through adversity to arrive at their current glory. It emerged from a year of dark uncertainty as a versatile, vibrant space that continues the legacy of its legendary predecessor. It remains a cornerstone of the Cincinnati music scene." The Southgate Thompson House and the Southgate House Revival are truly music venue masterpieces. They offer unity and healing to the people of Campbell County through live music. In the words of Morella Riley, certainly in troubling times like we are in right now, music is something that brings people together, not just physically, but emotionally as well. Thank you. I just wanted to add this on a personal note. So I want to thank the Historical Society, because you mentioned this is the 16th year. So Cora, I'm having a flashback. She participated 5 times in the essay contest, and the first time was when she was in 6th grade, so there's some younger kids here. And it's just been an incredible experience for her. It led to a lot of opportunities, like things that she did. An example, she did one on Paul Bussey and Applied Imagination. That led to employment there. They actually recorded her essay and featured it at a Franklin Park Conservatory in Columbus. I don't know if you guys knew that. The same my aunt was featured in that one. She was a nun in St. Anne, just passed away last month. And Cora was able to read from that essay, her first one at the funeral. So I just want to thank you.
That's awesome. I wanted to make sure that you told people that.
It's an incredible opportunity, so thank you so much.
I would encourage all you young people to remember that. Keep at this.
This is, there's certificate in there and a check, hey, most important, yeah. So, thank you for doing this for her. And I wish she has a good year at Santa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. Appreciate it.
Now, the junior essay. First place is Josie Beddinghouse. Or Haas. Yay. Yeah. The essay is Vern Snyder Float, High Balsas Float Company, right? That sounds interesting. I didn't know we had such a thing in Campbell County. Come on, hon, and congratulations.
The High Balsa Float Company was a small company intentionally run out of a shed in Campbell County, Kentucky, and the owner was Vernon Joseph Snyder. Throughout his life, there were personal and business struggles, but he managed to own a successful business and had a family that he cherished until he was taken from this earth. He made smart business decisions and helped run a great business and had a family that he loved with his whole heart. Life is not long, but he will be remembered for this company and his family who continues to carry on the love of his hard work and efforts. Vernon J. Schneider was born February 27, 1934, in Newport, Kentucky, by Father Raymond Schneider and Mother Edith Schneider. He had 5 siblings, 1 sister, and 4 brothers that he loved. But then on Vernon's 8th birthday, his mother Edith passed away suddenly, which crushed his whole family. While his family was in grief, his brother Raymond Jr. was hurting the most of all. And shortly after his mother passed away, his 12-year-old brother Raymond passed away as well. After his mom and brother died, his dad could not handle raising the kids safely. So Vernon and his 4 siblings left to move in with their aunt and uncle, Gertrude and Victor Hicks, in Cold Spring, Kentucky. He lived with his aunt and uncle the rest of his childhood, having fun and knowing his aunt and uncle as his parents. Then in 1950, he enrolled into the Army and was sent to fight in the Korean War. He fought in the war for 3 years, and then in 1953, he got an honorable discharge and moved back home with his aunt and uncle. After he moved home, he worked as a window washer and would mess with fishing supplies his aunt and uncle shed out back. While messing around in the shed, he came up with the idea of starting his own fishing float company, and thus he created the High Balsa Float Company, working out of his aunt and uncle's shed. He came up with the name by thinking of what materials to use to make his fishing floats, and came across balsa wood, which he decided would be the best material to make his floats out of. The company was owned and worked by him and his brother Edmund at the early stages of the career. As the career got bigger, Vernon and his brother wanted a bigger property to create the business of their dreams. While he was looking for property, he came across property that had both a small log cabin house and some extra acreage to run his business. So in 1966, he bought the property in Sun Valley, Kentucky from lawyer Burt Keyes. He ran a successful business as his property, but all he needed now was to settle down and raise a family. Later in 1966, he married Carol Lampy and had 5 children together: Teresa, Kim, Vernon Jr., Linda, and Carla. As his family and business grew, he was finally living the dream of having a beautiful family and a business that was skyrocketing. So with the money he was making, he decided to make an extension to his house by using a great deal of cobblestone. This cobblestone came from the old streets of Newport and was given to him to bury on his property. But when he received it, he had plans to use it for something great down the road. And the home addition was it. 5 children in a small 2-bedroom home was tight, so the addition would be great. Late in the 70s, his partner and brother Edmund was going through some personal problems and sold his part of the business to Vernon, making him the sole owner. The business continued to do better than ever, with Vernon managing to get 2 patents for the fishing float and the fishing float method of assembly. With his business doing so well, he needed to hire more people to help run the company. He hired many friends and family members, including his children, Teresa, Vernon Jr., and Kim, to help make the perfect fishing float design. The company, at their highest peak, was employing around 67 employees and making a lot of money as a small business. Also, as the company was becoming more successful, they needed more building space, so Vernon bought the property across the street from where he was living. When they cleaned up the property after purchasing it, they found in the back area a graveyard with headstones from the Gonsley and Boyd family that had been all hidden by tall grass stockings and brush. While this property, he was able to make more floats, and this allowed him to supply his floats to other stores. They found their way into Louisville and various Florida tackle shops, where he would travel in his camper and sell his floats, along with selling fishing floats to larger companies such as Rinks and Kmart. His business was at its height, but like most businesses, there's always a downfall sooner or later. His downfall came in 1994 when President Clinton signed the North American Free Trade Agreement. This agreement allowed free trade between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. This took a major toll on Vernon's company as other fishing companies started to produce less expensive products and use foreign supplies to make a cheaper fishing float. He wanted to stay American-made and produce a high-quality product, but he struggled to make ends meet and decided that he would come up with a new way to make the fishing float at a cheaper price to compete with the larger companies. The goal was to make his own machine for cutting out the float. So Vernon turned to his brother Jerry, who was an engineer, and asked him if he could make a device that would help him with the process of making this fishing float. His brother and he, of course, would help him, but that his brother did not know was that Vernon had also asked someone else to help him make a design as well. When Vernon went to the bank with both plans, the bank decided which plan they would finance, which was not his brother's engineered plan. As a result, Vernon had no other choice unless he wanted to risk more money on his brother's device than risk not as much on the other device. Though he knew his brother would not be happy, he had to go with what was best for the future of the company. So he had no choice but to use the other plan. Once the new device for the float was made, making in production, and unfortunately did not do the job as it was intended to do. It would make 2 bad floats than 1 good float. As a result, 2/3 of his floats were not sellable. At this point, Vernon was not doing well and had to find a way through the struggle, but then he found out the worst of news. Vernon's business was going downhill, and he had good intentions to fix it. But he became ill and visited the doctor, who gave him bad news. It was cancer, and eventually he also developed diabetes. In his eldest daughter's opinion, she saw that her father had held a lot of his trust internally, and as the company started to have problems, he could not manage to make others happy, and she felt that his body acted physically. She thinks that the stress was part of the big reason why he got both cancer and diabetes. Even with these health problems, he still pushed to try and make a plan that would fix the whole company. But time for him was too short, as he died at 65 years old. He was not able to live out his plan to fix the company. He died proudly with the plan printed under his pillow and left the company to run by his only son, Vernon Jr. As he hoped that he would fix the company in some way, Vernon Jr. did take the company over after his death, but after a couple more years, the plan did not work and had to shut down the business. Vernon Schneider lived an amazing life and had very successful business opportunities and had an amazing family that he cared about so much. He lived life to the fullest and always thought that a problem can be fixed with the right criteria. He cherished his life on earth and would be so proud of his family as he looks down on them from heaven. Vernon's life was one like any other person, but he tried his best to make his mark in the world with his business, and he did, that by leaving behind 2 mountains. He lived an amazing life here on earth, and I am proud to call him my grandpa.
That was interesting. I didn't know there was anything like that going on around here. So great. See, this is why this is important. Here's your, there's a certificate and a check in acknowledgement that you were in the essay contest. Good job. Junior, 2nd place, Sabrina Goshian. A journey to safety.
My grandma, Ophelia, is the bravest person I have ever known. She had to go through many hardships throughout her lifetime to find a safe, peaceful, and welcoming area, Campbell County, Kentucky. Before she moved to the United States, my grandma had to live in a country where there was a war going on, was forced out of her home because it was unsafe, and had to move many times to find safety in America. My grandma made a positive impact on our community. She was always very nice and kind to the people around her. Also, she brought diversity to our area. Whenever she talked to people or attended events, she shared her culture and spread diversity awareness. One very hard thing my grandmother had to go through was living in Azerbaijan while there was a war there. Azerbaijan was one of the republics in the former Soviet Union. In 1987, there was a territorial conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia, its neighboring republic. Since my grandmother was ethnically Armenian, it was not safe for her to stay in Azerbaijan. She moved to Yerevan, Armenia. In 1988, the 2 countries agreed to make peace. My grandma thought since the war was over, it would be safe to move back home, so she did. However, the peace did not last very long. Once the war started again, my grandma and her kids were forced out of their home, leaving everything behind. My grandmother and her family had to go back to Armenia, and they stayed with her sister. When my grandma described these events to me, it made me think of how bad it would be to live there, and it seemed like everyone was always scared for their lives. A few days after they moved to Armenia, there was a destructive earthquake close to where they were staying. There were 2 tremors of 6.9 and 5.8 magnitude, only minutes apart. The earthquake killed about 60,000 people, causing many injuries and destroying many buildings. Luckily, my grandma and her family were not hurt, but it was a very traumatic experience for all of them. Eventually, my grandma decided to immigrate to America as a refugee so that she and her kids could have a better life. To live in America, my grandma had to go through a long immigration process. She started with applying to get the approval of the U.S. Embassy to come to the U.S. She had to move to Moscow, Russia to complete the immigration papers for her and her family. After several years of paperwork and interviews, their permission was finally granted, and my grandma could move to the United States of America with my dad, aunt, and uncle. On May 15, 1992, after a 9-hour flight, my grandma and her family finally arrived to New York. Then, after another flight that lasted about 2 hours and 30 minutes, they got to Cincinnati. The entire family was very excited and happy to finally come to safety after so many years of living in fear and uncertainty. But this was a lot to handle for my grandmother. Everything was new and very confusing. She did not speak any English, so it was very hard for her to understand where to go or what to do. Moving to a new country was scary and overwhelming. Since my grandma and her kids did not have any American money, did not have a place to live, and did not know anyone, they had to have a sponsor. Their sponsor was a church in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. For the first 2 months that they lived in America, the church paid for everything, like their apartment, groceries, clothing, and other necessities. When I think of this situation, it makes me think of how hard it would be to start all over again in a foreign place with no money, not speaking the language, and being dependent on someone else for everything. After about 2 months, my grandma got a job. She worked at a British restaurant in Fort Thomas as a salad bar attendant. Back home, she was a chemist. But since she could not speak any English at all, she was not able to be a chemist here in America. Not speaking any English was extremely tough on my grandma because she was not able to communicate with others, share her feelings, or express her thoughts. When my grandma tried to learn English, it was very hard for her to remember words and phrases, especially at her age. Even after 20 years of living in America, it was still hard for her to speak and understand English. While my grandmother lived in America, she impacted her community in many ways. For starters, she had an impact in the community through her job. With her job at Frisch's, she was able to contribute to society. She was 53, and having a job like that was very hard on her. In addition to working, she was also an active member of her community. She went to St. Joseph Catholic Church in Cold Spring, Kentucky, and supported that group. In addition, my grandma made contributions through art. She loved art and music and went to symphony concerts, art exhibits, and various art programs. She loved to draw and paint, and she was a very talented artist. She also loved to read and supported the local library. In addition, she made an impact through talking with others in the community. She made friends everywhere she went. Through all her interactions, she shared culture and spread diversity awareness. She shared her journey with others, and those people got to see a unique perspective from someone who lived through tough times. In 2016, my grandmother was diagnosed with brain cancer. This was devastating news for me and my family. In the beginning, we had no clue how bad it would get. When the doctors ran all the tests, they told us that they could remove the brain tumor and she could recover. The surgery was a success, and my grandmother began her recovery. The recovery process was very slow, and the doctors monitored it very closely. But about 8 months later, another brain tumor appeared. This time, it was a different kind of tumor that could not be treated. 2 years later, it got to the point where my dad, aunt, and uncle had to take turns spending days and nights at my grandmother's apartment to help her do simple things like eat and drink. I often visited my grandmother and helped take care of her. Sadly, on March 3, 2020, my grandmother passed away. My grandma made a long-lasting impact on my life. I spent a lot of time with her. We talked a lot, played board games, and watched TV. Every time I came to her apartment, she cooked Armenian foods for me. My favorites were buckwheat and baked potatoes. Even though my grandma was Armenian, she spoke Russian because it was the official language in all parts of the former Soviet Union. She taught me Russian games and read me Russian books. When she got sick, I visited her a lot, and we played dominoes, watched PBS Kids, and talked about our days. She also told me many stories about her family and her life in the former Soviet Union. Learning about her journey made me appreciate my heritage. From talking to her, I discovered my family history and got interested in finding out more information about my culture. Whenever she told me stories from her life, I was so stunned. They were very intense and emotional. In her stories, she was always fearless, which makes me think of whenever I'm scared to do something to be courageous like her. My grandmother had to go through very hard and scary events, but she was brave and pulled through them. I am very glad that she came to safety in America. I am relieved that I did not have to live in such horrible conditions as my grandmother did. Not only did my grandma impact my life, but also the lives of the people around her. She had a very positive effect on our community. To this day, she's my idol and makes me grateful for everything I have.
Check in there and so on. Well, I tell you, grandmother was lucky. She got to come here and live in America with us, and I tell you what, she had a great granddaughter. You were great. So, thank you. All right, next is Lucy Bierman, or is it Pierman? Okay, the Schweitzer Farm.
During the 1900s, Campbell County was full of farms. There were over 100 dairy farms, but now only few remain. The Schweitzer Farm was special because without it, I probably wouldn't be here right now. My great-great-grandpa Albert and his mom Anna started the Schweitzer Farm in the early 1900s after Anna had just divorced her husband. The farm was the most logical way to earn money quickly because farms were so popular back then. But when they bought the first 50 acres of the farm, they didn't know that eventually they would gain over 140 acres and their farm would be making profits for over a century. Anna and Albert started selling a variety of fruits and vegetables, but struggled with growing them. They grew mostly strawberries, peaches, apples, and raspberries. During harvest time, my great-grandpa Willard, also known as Bill, used to stay home from school and pick beans. It was even harder back then because they didn't have special machines and there were bean beetles, which would eat up their green beans. They would have to catch the beetles in a jar and kill the females because they didn't have a special spray when my great-grandpa was younger. They didn't just have the beetles. They also had plagues of insects, which were mostly grasshoppers, that would eat up most of the crop and leave the crops dead. Back then, there was no easy solution to them, and if there was a plague of grasshoppers, they would just have to leave them all there and let them eat the crops. My grandma told me a story that once they grew a beautiful peach orchard, but before they could pick all the peaches, a group of grasshoppers came and ate it all up. It wasn't just a couple grasshoppers, it was a whole siege of them. My grandma told me that she couldn't even see the fence posts because they were covered with grasshoppers. They ate the peaches down to the very center and left the pits hanging on the tree. My great-grandpa Bill was so fed up with them, he got a bulldozer and destroyed all the trees, even the ones that the grasshoppers didn't get to. Other than the insects, the farm faced many issues, but the biggest one was probably the dairy farm shutting down. By that time, Albert had passed down most of the farm to his son, Bill, and Bill couldn't maintain all the crops and sold some of the land. They still had crops, but the way they made their money was by selling milk. It was the most popular in the 1930s and 40s. They would milk over 60 cows a day. That all changed in the 1950s when the government made laws saying that the barns that the dairy was produced in had to be up to code, and the farm couldn't afford that because they had to have special equipment that most small farms couldn't buy. The barns had to be painted or whitewashed on the inside. Also, the laws changed every 2 years or so as new equipment was invented, farms would have to buy the new invention, but the Schweitzer farm couldn't afford that. After that, they learned to adapt and started selling their vegetables out of a truck. They grew mostly kale and turnips and mustard greens, but multiple other fruits and vegetables. They would fill up a refrigerated truck with the crops at about 10 o'clock at night. Then, my great-grandpa would wake up sometime between 2 and 3 in the morning and deliver the crops to either Findlay Market or Castellini. People could also call and place orders, and he would deliver it to them. Then, Bill retired, he gave the farm to my great-uncle Dale. My great-grandpa worried that Dale couldn't take care of the farm because everything became more expensive, including workers. That meant it would only be Dale and his siblings working on the farm. Bill still helped, but since he was getting older, it was harder for him to help. Since the prices of tractors went up, Dale decided to start selling other things. They stopped farming in December of 1987. He started selling landscaping items that he grew, like flowers, shrubs, and trees. My great-grandma Mercedes, Dale's mother, and their neighbor Bonnie opened a roadside stand and sold the flowers there. One of their biggest products was their Christmas trees. They sold those for nearly 3 decades. Dale didn't grow the trees on the farm. He bought them from farms in Michigan and North Carolina and sold them in his roadside stand. My grandma Alice told me that on a Christmas Eve, if there were any trees left, Dale went around giving the Christmas trees to people that couldn't afford them. He also started selling straw, trailers, and storage bins in the early 1990s. They started selling the barns and trailers by accident. The barn makers came and asked if they could possibly sell the barns for them, and they made tons of profits from the beginning. The trailers were sold by a man who lived out of town. One day, he was hauling them back to his house, but he didn't want to bring them all the way home because one of his family members in the area had just died. So he went up to Dale and asked him if he could sell the trailers for him. The man said, "I thought it was a good spot." Maybe he was right about it being in a good spot because the farm was located where the 2 largest highways in Campbell County now are, the AA and the US 27. The highway split the farm into 3 pieces in the late 80s and early 90s. The 2 barns and Bill's house were on one side. Dale's house was on another, and the 3rd piece only had cows on it at the time. Now, that is where O'Charlie Restaurant is located in Cold Spring. From getting fresh milk every day or getting locally grown fresh produce, Schweitzer Farm had a great impact on the lives of not only my family, but also many families in the community. If you saw Bill or Dale somewhere, you'd recognize them as the Christmas tree guys. Even though the farm doesn't exist anymore, I will always think of my great-grandpa Willard and great-uncle Dale as the most kind, loving, and trusting farmers in Campbell County I've ever met.
Some of the family here. You all want to come up and say hello? Well, I'm glad you're here, and you have to be proud of us. Isn't that great? And we all remember that, the little sheds and Christmas trees. And you can so check and certificate and well done. See ya.
I learn something every time from these young people. It's just wonderful to hear all this. Does anybody else have anything else that they need to say? No? Okay. Then I would just invite all of you to join us next month, right here again, and we have a meeting, presentations on the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. A lot of athletes have come through Northern Kentucky, and so we're going to hear about all of them next month. And I invite all of you to join us for that. Come up and take a look at all the freebies. If you're interested in a t-shirt, they're available here. But thank you all very, very much. Great evening. Take care now.